Snowflakes drifted through the night sky, landing softly on the streets that glittered with Christmas lights. Daniel, a successful businessman and single father, clutched a bag filled with brightly wrapped gifts for his little girl. He was tired but eager to get home, to see the sparkle in her eyes when she discovered what Santa had left under the tree. As he walked toward his car, a sudden movement caught his attention. Across the street, near the dimly lit alley by a closed bakery, a woman bent over a trash bin. Her clothes were torn, her hands trembling in the cold as she rummaged through discarded bags. Daniel stopped. He could have kept walking, most people would have. But there was something in the way she moved, a mixture of desperation and fragility, that anchored his feet to the ground. Her face lifted briefly, framed by tangled hair, and he noticed her eyes that carried not just hunger but a story too heavy for words. She quickly lowered her gaze again, clutching a half-crushed piece of bread as if it were treasure. The streets around them sparkled with holiday cheer, families carrying gifts, children laughing, music spilling from shop windows, yet here she was, invisible in the middle of it all. For Daniel, it was as if time slowed. He thought of his daughter asleep at home, warm and safe, waiting for him. And he thought of this woman, alone on Christmas Eve, searching for survival in the shadows of celebration. Something deep inside him whispered, "Don't walk away." Daniel crossed the street slowly, not wanting to startle her. The crunch of his shoes on the snow made the woman flinch, and she instinctively pulled the stale bread closer to her chest. Her shoulders stiffened, as though she expected harsh words or judgment. But Daniel's voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Are you hungry? There's a diner still open down the block. Let me buy you something warm." She shook her head quickly, avoiding his eyes. "I'm fine," she murmured, though her trembling hands told another story. He lingered, unwilling to let the moment pass. "Please," he said, "no one should be alone like this on Christmas Eve." For a long moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the wind. Then, with a heavy sigh, she whispered something that pierced the night. "I wasn't looking for food for myself. I was searching for something sweet, a pastry, maybe. My son used to love them." Her voice faltered, and her gaze fell to the ground. "He passed away last Christmas Eve." The words hung in the air like shards of glass. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had expected hunger, maybe shame, but not this. She wasn't scavenging out of greed or habit. She was clinging to a memory, reaching for a fragment of the love she had lost. In that instant, Daniel realized the woman's pain was far deeper than the cold or the empty stomach. She was carrying grief, and it weighed heavier than the snow that blanketed the streets. Daniel stood frozen, the woman's words echoing inside him like church bells on a silent night. He thought of his own struggles, the nights he had stayed awake, rocking his baby daughter when she was sick, wondering how he would manage without his wife, who had passed too soon. He had money now, more than enough, but there had been a time when loneliness had nearly swallowed him whole. Looking at this woman, he realized how thin the line was between despair and survival, between being seen and being forgotten. The weight of her story pressed into his heart. He had rushed through the season, spending thousands on gifts, decorations, and things his daughter would enjoy for a moment, yet here stood someone who wanted nothing more than to hold on to the taste of a memory. It struck him, Christmas wasn't about the glittering packages in his car or the expensive tree waiting at home. It was about connection, about remembering that every soul mattered, even the ones left behind in alleyways. His chest ached as he looked at her trembling frame. He knew he couldn't undo her past, couldn't erase the pain of her loss. But he could offer something else, warmth, dignity, a reminder that she was not invisible. And in that moment, Daniel felt a shift inside himself. For the first time in years, he understood that the truest wealth he had was not measured in bank accounts but in his ability to share kindness. Daniel cleared his throat gently, as if afraid his words might break the fragile silence. "Come with me," he said softly. "I'm heading home to my daughter. We're about to have Christmas dinner. There's plenty for another plate." The woman blinked, startled, then shook her head. I couldn't. I don't belong. You do, Daniel interrupted, his voice firm but kind. You belong at a table, not in the cold. Hesitation flickered in her eyes, but something in his sincerity broke through her walls. With small, tentative steps, she followed him. When they arrived at his home, the warmth of the fireplace spilled across the room. His daughter came running, her face bright with wonder. She froze for a moment at the sight of their guest, then smiled with the effortless kindness only a child could give. "Merry Christmas," she chirped, reaching for the woman's hand. At the table, laughter began to soften the air. The woman, still shy, tasted the hot food with quiet gratitude. But it was Daniel's daughter who created the moment that brought tears to everyone's eyes. She slipped away, grabbed a small box from under the tree, and placed it gently into the woman's hands. "Everyone should have a present on Christmas," she said. The woman's lips trembled. She held the gift as though it were the most precious thing she had ever received. Her tears spilled freely, but this time, they weren't only tears of grief, they were tears of being seen, of being welcomed, of belonging again. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a golden glow across the room where laughter still lingered from the night before. Daniel brewed coffee as his daughter sat at the table, humming softly while drawing pictures of their new friend. The woman, once fragile and uncertain, now looked different, still weary, but with a spark in her eyes that hadn't been there the night before. Daniel placed a mug in front of her and spoke gently. "You don't have to go back out there. I can help. My company has a program for people looking for a fresh start. If you're willing, I'll make sure you have a safe place to stay, food on the table, and work that gives you dignity." Her hand froze on the mug, her eyes widening with disbelief. Why would you do that for me?" she whispered. Daniel glanced at his daughter, who was now carefully wrapping another drawing as if it were the most important gift in the world. He smiled softly. "Because everyone deserves a second chance. Because my daughter needs to grow up knowing what love and kindness look like. And because it's Christmas, and Christmas is about more than us. It's about all of us." Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they carried hope. As snow began to fall gently outside, Daniel pulled his daughter close, whispering, "This is the best Christmas we've ever had." And in that quiet, sacred moment, he knew it was true.